Hello and welcome to Mindshifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, March 26th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are gratefully available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages, it says Start Here. It will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And in that chapter, you will find a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. It's called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect over the last 16 years to improve my quality of life, manage my emotions, and turn any negative emotion into part of an infallible guidance system within me. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself absolutely free. Click on the PDF file, download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process and or called in to give testimonials about it or ask for clarifying information about how this deceptively simple process can be so powerful. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the actual Reality Management Worksheet process, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We encourage people to do that soon and often because when you do that, it might raise a question or you might come up with a comment that can assist us in learning this material better for ourselves and teaching it to others. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call at 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we'll see that you want to make a comment or ask a question and turn on your microphone, introduce you by your area code. Alternatively, if you're listening to this through the archives, you can send an email to Jeanie, Jeanie, at whyagain.org, or you can send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. And we will do our best once we receive those emails to answer those questions during the show, and then they'll be available through the archives, as are the shows for the last 10-plus years. We've also been living into the commitment to talk about the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. Today is the 85th day of the year, and this is another review lesson. This is a review lesson of Lesson 69. My grievances hide the light of the world which is in me. My grievances show me what is not there, and they hide from me the truth that I would see. Recognizing this, what do I want my grievances for? They keep me in darkness, and they hide the light. Grievances and light cannot go together, but light and vision must be joined for me to see. To truly see what actually is, I must lay my grievances aside. I want to see the truth of what is, and this will be the means by which I succeed. Some specific applications of this idea might be, let me not use this situation as a block to my sight. The light of the world will shine all of this in this current situation, shine it away. I have no need for this current situation or the meaning I'm giving it, and I want to see the truth of life. Lesson 70 review. My salvation comes from me. Today I will recognize where my salvation is. It is in me because its source is in me. It has not left its source, and so it cannot have left my mind. I will not look for my salvation outside myself. My salvation is not found outside and then brought in, but it is found within me, and it will reach beyond. And everything I see will but reflect the light that shines in me and in itself. Specific applications of this idea might be, let not this situation tempt me to look away from my true self for my salvation. I will not let this current situation interfere with my awareness of the source of my salvation. This current situation and my interpretation of it have no power to remove salvation from me. We've also made a commitment to work through the Course in Miracles Experiment book by Pam Grout, and her chapter 85 is titled, Fault in Your Stars. She quotes Eckhart Tolle as saying, the fault you perceive in another isn't even there. It is a total misinterpretation, a projection by a mind which has been conditioned to see enemies and make itself right. Pam writes, grievances show me things that aren't there. She suggests the song titled Once a Day by Michael Franti. But those other people, they're so scary. When Matthew Lester was 25, he joined the anti-Islam group, Britain First. He heard dangerous Muslims were infiltrating his country. He wanted to do something to help. But within a few months of joining the far-right group, he concluded that instead of tackling problems, Britain First, as a group, was exacerbating them. Its grievances, as this lesson emphasizes, were showing evils that did not exist. After admitting on Twitter, quote, I have been an unwitting twat, close quote, Lester showed up at the Crayford Mosque in southeast London. He was astonished at all the kindness and love he was shown. From there, he embarked on a month-long pilgrimage of penitence by visiting mosques all over London. He even apologized for letting his grievances show him faults that were not there. So, that's our lesson for today, the review lessons and our commentary. And we have 50 minutes left for comments, questions, answers, soliloquies, processing. We had a support group last night, and stuff stuff was flowing. Stuff was flowing for me. I had notification right before the group of a good friend who is all but dead and completely gone mentally, who is exactly my age. And then we were in the group and people were talking about all of the different varieties of frustration and fear and angst that we create related to the coronavirus and the vaccinations and as we always do in that group, we recommend that people use the tools to actively dismantle whatever excuses their mind is presenting them with for living in hostility or fear or judgment in any way. And so we have the opportunity to do that again here in this next hour. We are fully capable of doing worksheets. If anybody has a worksheet they'd like to do, we are fully capable of discussing or framing worksheets for future use, and or helping people process or sort out the processing they need to do on any set of issues. I felt like my head was one of these enormous church bells up in a tower with the clangor banging back and forth yesterday because of things that happened before the group, in the group, at the end of the group. Right at the end of the group, one of our longtime attendees for years, she doesn't attend right now, but notice was given that her brother died very unexpectedly just a day or two before. And then I got a couple text messages after group that were adding to the clanging. And I woke up this morning and all these thoughts were right back at me. The people, the deaths that I've been aware of within my family members of people in my caseload, friends of my own, siblings of friends, and what I know for certain is that my conscious logical mind cannot make sense of the complexities of this world. And so I'm grateful beyond words for these tools which allow me to recognize that when I have a strong emotion that I would label as negative or unpleasant, sorting it out with my conscious logical mind is counterproductive. But picking up the tools and applying them is highly beneficial. And that's what my weekend is going to be spent doing. I have already made the commitment to be doubling down on personal work this weekend because I've got family members in crisis and friends in crisis and my own emotional responses to those situations and other people that I'm aware of that say and do things that just don't make any sense in my conscious logical mind. And when that happens and my mind says, that doesn't make any sense, I realize I'm in judgment. And then I realize if I sit with it, negative emotions will come to the surface in my awareness. And once that happens, at the current state in my life, I use that as an invitation to pick up a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet and actually explore what's happening in my consciousness that my conscious logical mind just can't keep track of or doesn't want to keep track of and keeps suppressing. The more I do that, the better off I am, because I had yet another person in my office yesterday who limped into the office with back pain. And this is a young person, a relatively young person, and he does an active job. He's not a couch potato. And he talked about how, he was working at work, and he must have injured his back because, after he was working, then he sat down, and when he went to get up, he felt this thing pull or snap or, twang in his lower back. I didn't even begin talking to him about the potential connection between physical pain and our emotions. And I had said nothing to him about the work that I know that, and Dr. John Sarno's work, where he says, the vast majority of back pain is unconscious rage. I just listened. And the very next thing out of this person's mouth was a story about how within the past week since our last session, I guess it's been a couple of weeks since we've had a session, within the past 2 weeks, and within a week of today's session, he had a rage incident that he finds now very embarrassing and upsetting, but he, in public, raged. And he raged in a way that he's concerned it might have a negative impact on his job because it was during the time that he was supposed to be working. And as we discussed all of those emotions and issues, and he got some insights, and we talked about applying the reality management worksheet, just the mental short version. And we did some of that and we reviewed the EFT tapping. He got up and walked out of the office without a limp. He literally just flowed in getting up off the couch and walking out of the office. No hint of the limp and the back pain that was so prominent in his experience at the beginning of the session. So I know that if I will live into the commitment I've made to spend extra time this weekend being aware of and processing my emotions, I will decrease the chances that it will manifest as a physical ailment in the near or distant future. And that's what we're inviting people to do. We're inviting everyone who chooses to pick up these tools and become an active steward of your own internal emotional life. And allow the energies to flow. Keep your breath moving. If you know or if you like using the EFT tapping, which is basically a way to give yourself an acupressure treatment for anything that bothers you physically, mentally, or emotionally, step into the use of that tool with your breathing, with that calming breath that has you comfortably fill your lungs, pausing briefly at the top of the breath, and then resisting the exhale so that your exhale is 4 to 8 times longer than your inhale. And in doing that, you'll be triggering your body's parasympathetic response, and you will initiate that relaxed state from which your body does its best healing, cleansing, restoring, refreshing, rejuvenating, relaxing, and probably several other R words that I haven't put in that list. But the primary advice for me to keep my energies moving, to keep my emotional energies from lodging or locking into my body and causing physical disruption or disruption in the energy system that I experience as physical. The primary task for that is to allow, and keeping the breath moving is like Dr. Michael Rice likes to call the breath the on-off switch for the body's emotional energy system. So if I keep my breath open and moving, I keep my emotional energy system on. And when it's turned on, my emotional energy system can process all of these energies and these emotions. So the person I learned about last night, right before the internet show, is somebody who was my brother's best friend in college. And my brother was in the Navy. They put him through college, and so he had to leave for the Navy right after he graduated. And his best friend from college basically just moved into the house and took over my brother's role as my roommate in my bedroom, and stayed for 5 or 6 years, I forget exactly, and became basically another sibling, another family member. And that that move-in period was, 38 years ago, whatever, 35 years ago. So for the past 35 years, I have known of this person as a close family friend and had all kinds of very personal and intense interactions for probably 8 or 10 years before I got married. And the news is that he's had several strokes and he's got vascular dementia, doesn't really know who he is or where he is, and physically he's probably not long for this world. And this was my brother's best friend from college. So this morning, after processing all of this last night and woke up thinking about it, I made the time, do a little tapping, do a little breathing, and then I wrote the following email to my brother. Dear Tom, I've been flooded with thoughts and memories of you, Paul, your college, our family, since our brief call last night. I'm very sorry to hear about Paul's decline, especially sorry for your loss. I think often of your dedication to your friends and family, and I have some small sense of how immensely important we all are to you. Each loss like this requires a huge amount of emotional energy to flow through us as we honor our memories and our love for those we have lost. I will spend extra time this weekend honoring you, Paul, Notre Dame, your friendship, and the immense impact you and he have had on our family. Sending blessings and prayers to all of us. So as I breathe and tap, I encourage all of us to stay with these thoughts, these energies, these flows, and just let them be. Feel them fully and think in terms of allowing these energies to be within us, allowing these energies to be felt fully by us, and allow them to flow. To notice any tendency to tighten, to resist, to lock down, to say, I don't want to cry, I don't want to feel this, and to just keep the breath moving. And as I'm doing now, if you like using the EFT tapping, you can be tapping as you breathe, as you think about letting the energy, and it's the energy of all of the memories, of the good memories, of the sad memories, of the frustrating memories, of the anger-inducing memories. And if I keep my breath moving, and if I keep using the tools, I dramatically increase the probability that these energies will move through me, and I will have more and more open access to the loving memories. I will demonstrate to myself that I do not need to shy away from this sadness or pain or anger. And then I get direct, conscious access to the good memories and the life learnings. And when the pain gets intense or wells up, or I notice I'm in a particular negative thought pattern, or I notice a particularly strong negative emotion, we have the reality management worksheet, which is, as I say in the intro, is a tool I've been using to great effect for the past 16 years at least, to help dismantle the false belief that those energies, those emotions, are being caused by something outside of me. To understand that it's the interpretation I place on these events that my senses are describing to me that are responsible for any negative emotions I have. I think about the richness of the life events that are associated with this friend Paul, and the family, the ways that my family learned and grew and expanded by having exposure to someone like Paul. And if I can sit with any flood of emotions, positive or negative, and let myself review those memories and those life learnings, then I get better access to them. Then I get to have the benefit of that life energy and those wonderful interactions and the ways my life is better because of interacting with Paul. I get to have the benefits of those memories and those energies and those learnings. So we all get through these things. We get through them in our own ways. We all handle them. I remember I was recounting for someone this morning one of the gifts that my aunt gave me years ago when her husband died. And she and I were sitting alone in the living room after almost everybody had left, and some of her adult offspring were in the back of this small house. And all of a sudden, what sounded like a fight broke out, and there was yelling, and there was crashing, and I was sitting there with my aunt, probably in her 60s, late 60s, maybe early 70s. And I'm a psychologist, and I'm supposed to have the answers, and I had no idea what to say or do when her adult offspring are in the back of this house fighting, and this is literally hours after we buried her husband. And she gave a powerful gift. She simply said, Tim, everybody grieves in their own way. And basically just giving me permission to just be there and not have to make excuses for her daughters or try to fix anything. And basically letting me know she knew she was going to be okay. She was going to get through this. This is a message I've been trying to give people for the better part of this year. Everybody's going to have their own ways to deal with the life events, the politics, the coronavirus restrictions, the mask or no mask, the vaccine or no vaccine. And the best thing I know to do for anybody is help them process their own emotions and thoughts, and to help them turn the focus of their attention to what they have control over. I don't get to control what other people do, whether they wear a mask or not, whether they want to travel or not, whether they want to get the vaccine or not. I don't have any control over that. And if I use my mind energy to judge them as right or wrong, good or bad, and then generate negative emotions in response to those thoughts, I'm causing suffering for myself. I'm also using energies in my energy system that are going to do things like suppress my immune system rather than boost it. And at a time like this, for those of us who like to be healthy, a strong immune system is always a good idea. And if I wake up and realize that if I spend any appreciable amount of energy in frustration or anger about what anybody else is doing, that's energy that does not need to be spent in that way, and that's energy that is probably going to decrease my vitality. So I can put it on a worksheet, and I can say, here's my thought. This person is wrong for judging me because I don't want a vaccination. This person is wrong for judging me because I do want a vaccination. Here's the emotion that I feel when I'm aware of that judgment and that negative thought. Here's the goal that I have, and cancel that goal and ask to be shown. And as I began this talk, my conscious logical mind can't even begin to comprehend the complexities of this life. Take any aspect of this life. My mind can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend the physical aspect. I can't comprehend the mental or emotional aspect. So I put it all aside and I ask to be shown something else. And time after time, I get freed up. I move some little piece of my consciousness out of that box that I've labeled too fearful, too sad, too anger-inducing to look at. And it moves out of that box into the box I call my conscious awareness, and there it loses its power over me. In the middle of all of this flood of things, in the past couple days, people I know that have died and people who've had friends and family members die, and I get a message from someone I haven't had any significant communication with in years, basically. And talking about, hey, there's this thing that's yours. It's been in my possession for 16 years. You need to come get it. And it was like another one of those, stimuli coming at me from the outside world. It felt like there was somebody ringing the church bell and the big clangor in the bell just going back and forth, and just my head was vibrating. And I realized in that moment, I need to do some worksheets on this. Because there's nothing about a text message showing up on a phone that's creating any energies in my system, especially not negative energies. So I put this on a worksheet. And from the irritation that I'm feeling at the beginning of the worksheet and the goal that I have very clearly for this person to, see, to be emotionally sensitive and to see their impact on others. And I cancel that, and the irritation is gone, and what's in its place is deep sadness. And I recognize there's another layer of deep sadness about that relationship that, if you'd talked to me about it last week or 2 weeks ago, I would have told you, no, I'm pretty well resolved with it. It's okay. It's been over for 16 years or whatever. And yet, one set of interpretations that I place on a text message vibrating at the right frequency stirs up irritation and frustration and confusion. There's another worksheet for me to do on the confusion, but the two I've done so far on the irritation and the frustration, both of them reveal deep sadness within me. Sadness, grieving over the loss of the relationship, grieving over all of the dreams that I had for how that relationship would unfold into the future. And already, even though I'm more in touch with the sadness than I was when I was feeling the irritation or confusion, it feels more workable. It feels like I can get through this better when I apply the tools. And before I started looking at the sadness, it felt like there was a pressure building in me with this irritation and frustration. And it seemed like there would be no safety valve, no release valve for this frustration and irritation. So again, this tool is available absolutely free at whyagain.org, or you can just go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And the next time you have a negative thought and you pour enough mental energy into it that it becomes the awareness of a negative emotion, you can map that out on the worksheet process. Figure out what your mind is telling you needs to happen in order for you to feel better. Cancel all of that and ask to be shown something better, different, more functional, and watch what happens. And this works for any negative emotion that I've ever experienced, for my grief, for my sadness, for my confusion, for my irritability. Area code 817, you're in the air. Who do we have?
Hello, Dr. Tim. My name is Terry.
Did you say Terry?
Terry, yes, with a T, as in Tim.
All right. Welcome.
Yes, and thank you. I want to start with a couple of questions. I'm new, fairly new to Michael's work, and just in the attendance of his online workshops right now. And there is a particular thing that has come up for me recently, but I want to ask a couple of questions first. Is the emotion producing the thought, or is the thought creating the emotion?
Our experience and our observation, tied in with neuroscience, leads us currently to understand that my thoughts create my emotions.
Okay.
And my emotions are just shadows of my thought. And one of the exercises that Dr. Rice does in one of his lectures is he has people let themselves to anger and feel it. And then take a breath and release the anger, and then let themselves go to sadness. Take a breath and release the sadness, and let yourself go to fear. And then he says, okay, now how many people were able to experience these various emotions? And it's pretty much everybody in the audience raises their hand. And then he asks, okay, what did you do to experience those emotions? And eventually everyone realizes, well, they sat there and thought about a time in their life when they had those negative emotions, and so that's how they created the experience in the present moment. So this is just one of the ways that we can experience that we are thinking our way into our emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we sit and think negative thoughts that might be interpreted by some people as leading to anger, and we think them long enough, we begin to feel the energetic shift that we call, the physical sensations that we call anger in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we shift our thoughts over to something sad, we can start to feel the sadness, etc. And we encourage people to just observe this for themselves, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how many psychological, scientific studies there are that tell me that my thoughts create my emotions. If I can't observe it for myself, it's not useful to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Okay, and so it is the combination of some thought with an emotion that's attached to it that's in my unconscious, subconscious?
Well, this is the way we're talking about it these days is, in line with science. If they did an autopsy on my brain, they wouldn't find Tim in there anywhere. And they wouldn't find my unconscious thoughts in one side of my brain and my conscious thoughts in the other. So it's basically your consciousness is your memory of everything you've ever lived through. And there is just your consciousness. But there are consciousness that you're happy to remember or willing to remember, and things you've lived through, things that are part of your awareness and consciousness that you've labeled as too much or too fearful or too upsetting, and you're not willing to remember. So you block those off. You're actually using your own mind energy to block yourself from experiencing or remembering parts of your life experience. And that is the working definition we have for my unconscious. Some part of my mind that I'm aware of at a level that I've labeled too much for me to deal with or too fearful. And so I'm actually blocking myself from being able to be aware of it consciously. Michael Rice likes to talk about it in three different segments. We have what I'm actively aware of and thinking about in this moment. So I have this earpiece in my ear. I have a woman named Terry on the radio show. I've got my desk in front of me with my laptop. All of these things are in my conscious awareness. And then Michael likes to talk about the subconscious, which is all of the stuff that I'm not thinking about right now, but if somebody mentions it or it's triggered into awareness, it comes very easily. You know, like, what's your favorite band in high school? You know, what was the first car that you owned yourself? So things like that, if I don't have any emotional attachment to them, they pop right into my awareness. And so that was something I wasn't thinking about a minute ago, but now it comes easily to my conscious awareness, so we call it the subconscious. And the third section is that part that I was just referring to, where I've lived through it and I've experienced it, but some part of me that thought it was being protective labeled it as too much, too sad, too fearful, too anger-inducing, too hurting, too confusing. And so part of my own mind energy is being used to block my awareness of it. That would be the unconscious. So we've got the conscious that we're actively aware of, the subconscious that we're not currently thinking about, but there's no blockage to my remembering it and dealing with it directly, and then the unconscious where there's a part of my mind actively blocking me from remembering it.
Okay, yes, I remember hearing that before now that you are talking about it. And then, so the resonance that happens in me when I have projected something outside of me is the resonance, is it a character trait in a person that I see? Is it just a behavior? Is it a...
It could be any of that. It could be any of that. And more than what it is on the outside is what I interpret it to be inside myself. So it's the interpretation that I place on the things that I'm seeing or hearing with my senses, and that's what creates the reaction I have. That's what's resonating with my past and my stored trauma energies, etc. The outside event isn't causing anything. I've never been triggered by anything outside of me. The only thing I've ever been triggered by, to use that phrase, is the interpretation I choose and place on the stimuli that are hitting my senses. What my mind is telling me happened and what it means, that's what's resonating the upset within me.
Okay.
This is how you can have some people that are, they're in a group of people and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, nice sweater." And the person they're talking to gets offended. And everybody else thinks, "Oh, he just gave her a compliment." Because she made it mean, or there was something in his tone that she threw an interpretation on that says he's mocking me, or that wasn't a genuine compliment, or... But she's the only one in the group that has that response. Why? Because of the interpretation she's placing on the vibrations that hit her ears.
Okay. So I guess I'll just try to go through the worksheet. So there is a person in my life who I am interpreting as extremely negative, and there's nothing right about anything, and something bad's going to happen, something bad's going to happen, something bad's going to happen, see something bad happen. And it's very difficult to be around this person. And what I feel coming up in me right now as I talk about this is there's some anger, there's a feeling of being manipulated, but then it kind of goes a little bit beyond that. There's an expectation and some guilt laying upon me that I have some responsibility to do something to make this person feel happy. You know, more visits, more phone calls, more letters, more emails, more pictures, more. So
okay. So to begin with, let me ask you to take a breath and soften and notice. I'm hearing something, and I don't know you very well, so I might be, interpreting this incorrectly. But I'm hearing tension, at the very least, in your voice as you talk about this. So take a breath and soften to begin before we talk about this anymore. Just soften and notice where there might be any tension in your body. And let me point out to you that in what you've already said, there's a big piece of denial that Michael Rice would probably point out to you if he were on the phone right now. And that denial is, you said, it's difficult being around this person, as though there's something outside of you that's causing a difficulty. And we just finished talking about how the only difficulty that I experience is going to be derived by the way I interpret and then respond to what I see as the outside stimuli. So to end the denial, you might say something like, I'm experiencing great difficulty just being around this person.
Okay.
And then it just changing the phrasing that way opens up my awareness. And I'm literally just one step away then from asking my mind to show me how I'm creating so much difficulty or an experience of difficulty about being with this person. And then once I've stated it that way, in the very next few sentences, you can see what you just revealed to me about what's making this so difficult for you. And it's all inside you. It's not about the other person. And what you just revealed to me in you that's making this in you so difficult to be around this person is you're operating from the false belief that you have to make this person happier.
Yeah.
So
I'm taking responsibility.
That's right. It will get infinitely easier for you to be around this person or to choose to not have as much contact with this person as you continue to do worksheets and cancel the goal that you are able to make this person feel better or happier or whatever. And the baggage in you that may go back, hours, days, weeks, months, years, or decades, that you need to dismantle a bunch of false beliefs and traumas from childhood, they will come to the surface and you'll see, oh, that's silly. And, oh, that's got nothing to do with my life today. And then those things will no longer be driving the energetic experience you're having that you're calling it's very difficult to be with this person.
Yeah, okay.
Now, it all begins with learning to recognize when I make a statement that hides from me that I'm the one creating my experience. because that's putting me in denial. And the denial that we just specified was you started by saying it's difficult being around this person, as though the outside situation was creating the difficulty. So when I say, I just rephrase the way I say it, and I say, I experience great difficulty being around this person. Mm-hmm. Now I'm only a step away from asking my mind, how am I creating this difficulty? How am I creating this frustration or this sadness or this guilt? And then I'm right at the threshold of being able to see that part of my mind that's actually creating that difficulty or that negative emotion and getting direct access to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, yes. I appreciate that. And it brings another question to my mind, which is a little bit back to my my previous question. So it maybe looks like it's going a little bit off track, but this
That's all right.
denial.
Go ahead. What's your question?
Is this denial, is this the definition of codependence and the victim mentality?
Well, they're tied together in this work the way Dr. Michael Rice talks about it. So his definition for denial is when I think or act as though someone or something outside of me is responsible for my emotions or my experience internally. And the definition of a codependent relationship is anytime I think or speak as though someone or something outside of me is responsible for my emotional state, I've just created a codependent relationship in my mind with that person. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you talk about Codependence Anonymous and the books Codependent No More by Melody Beattie and all these things, you can get a lot more complicated, sometimes usefully so, sometimes not so usefully so. But in this work with Dr. Rice, the definition for denial is at the root of his definition for a codependent relationship. Denial is when I think or speak as though someone or something outside of me is responsible for my emotional state or my internal experience. And I create a codependent relationship anytime I think or speak as though someone or something outside of me is causing my emotions.
Okay. Okay, I'm taking notes. Yeah, and I bet this is in all the stuff that he's given us so far. Okay, my goal, yes. All right then. I think that's it for now. I have had some other things that came up as I was processing through the worksheet. Last night I had some, underneath that anger was a feeling of uselessness, helplessness, powerlessness to have any control over a situation that would make a person feel happy. So, I mean, it tied in very nicely with that because I don't. I don't have the power to make a person feel any other way than they're feeling. So, but it was sad. It was really sad. I cried a lot about it.
Now, there's denial again. So remove the denial.
Oh.
Right? By saying, if I say it was sad, I'm saying by direct implication that something outside of me caused me to have sadness. And to be at liberty to deal with it and change it, I need to understand I create sadness when I pour my mind energy into certain thoughts around that dynamic, whatever the sadness is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And so then you can start looking at, okay, what are the thoughts right here that I'm using to generate sadness?
Yeah.
And put that on a worksheet and get access to another level of liberation for yourself.
Mhm. Yes, very helpful.
But if I think, I hope so, because if I think someone or something outside of me is causing my sadness and I'm feeling very sad, then I either have to run away from that person or attack that person or bribe or seduce that person to try and get them to change what they're doing so I don't have to feel my sadness.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And we're in an unusual situation here where Michael and Jeannie are not coming on in the next 2 minutes. So if you wanted, and I have the liberty today, unusually, some flexibility. If you want further help in either working through a worksheet or framing one out, we can extend our time.
I think I want to play with this a little bit. I think I want to play with the worksheet, but
okay.
Yeah, to see what comes up. I thank you for that. And I wanted to ask you about the episode that followed the program yesterday. I wanted to go back and listen to that again. And if you wouldn't mind giving me the date for that, the 12 to 1 portion. It was a replay.
Yep, hold on a minute. I will let you know. I have to scroll down to the... I have a bit of an awkwardness in the dashboard that makes me slowly go down through this. So this was Laura Coughlin, May 15th of 2018.
Oh, 2018, okay.
5/15 of 2018.
Got it, okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Tim. I appreciate it.
You're entirely welcome and far more deserving than you yet know. But that will be coming to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, blessings. So we're here at the end of our first hour, and if nobody else raises a hand, we will launch into yet another replay for Michael and Jeannie since they are not here again today. And it's going to take me a moment to pull this up because it's not coming. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And soon we will have a replay going for Michael and Jeannie if nobody puts a hand up. And they will be back on Monday. Apologies for the delay, but it's not popping up in my email the way it normally would. So I suppose I will go back to the switchboard and scroll down. There was something she wanted me to do for a second show. So talk amongst yourselves. Apparently, I'm having a technological glitch with my email. And perhaps it's not in an email. Perhaps it's in a text message, so I will have to look there. But we'll be back all next week. And you're getting the silence. The radio silence is solid demonstration of Dr. Tim's inability to multitask. Well, that email is just not coming up. So I will pick a file to play, and we will have an hour from Michael and Jeannie. Starting now. We'll look forward to hearing or seeing from you next week. We come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false.